Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Morgan. This is my little space on the interwebs where I share about all kinds of things. And today I'm sharing about something kind of random, really. Today I'm going to attempt to do something that historically I haven't always been so great at, and that is gardening. When Mike and I were house hunting and talking about like the backyard and the size of the yard and like kind of what we needed space for in our backyard, one of the things that I had said that I really wanted was some space to have a little bit of a garden. Just love the idea of being able to grow my own veggies and herbs and maybe even fruit. Like, it just really appeals to me. But truthfully, I am not someone who's been very good at keeping alive plants and things like that. I have tried to like garden and grow some things in the past, and I'm kind of one of those people where like I start a hobby and I get like super hyper focused on it at first, and then I kind of lose interest, and so that kind of happens, and so I'm never really able to follow through. But this time I'm going to follow through. Why? Because I can't eat the veggies if I don't actually like follow through and grow the veggies. Now, I'm not saying that my first attempt at this is going to be very fruitful. This is going to be something that I kind of learn as I go, because I tend to be somebody that kind of jumps into things. I did do a little research. I've been following a couple of YouTube channels, a couple of videos I watched about, you know, the different kinds of like soils that different veggies and fruits need. Like, for example, I learned that, you know, strawberries can be a little bit difficult to grow because they like really acidic soil. So I've learned a tiny bit. But I feel like gardening is one of those things where you have to just kind of like trial and error. You just kind of have to do it and see what happens, and you kind of learn and grow from there. You see what I did there? Grow gardening. So I figured you guys could hang out with me today while I get our home garden started. Mike and I actually went out yesterday with the kids to the Home Depot, and we got a bunch of stuff, all the stuff we think we're gonna need. Hopefully it's all the stuff we need. Now, because we don't know exactly what we're doing with the yard yet, and by that I mean that Mike and I kind of have plans for the yard. We have a small patio out back that we were talking about either expanding or moving, but it kind of depends, because we were talking about the possibility of putting in a pool in a couple years. So like a whole lot of things are happening. We don't know exactly what we want to do with the yard yet. So I didn't want to dig up our actual soil and put a garden in place, because depending on what we end up doing, like we would potentially have to tear it out, like whatever. So what I chose to do was raised garden beds. So I bought 2 raised garden beds. I bought 2 pots. I actually think I probably should have got 4. So we're gonna see. There might be like a couple of things that like don't get planted today, depending on how much room I have when I'm laying everything out. Before we go outside and get started, I figured I would just run you through what seeds we picked up and kind of what factors I guess went into picking certain things. So you have to know what zone you're in. So the country is kind of zoned out based on like geographic location, and it has to do with like the weather that you get, like the temperatures and the hours of sunlight in a day. I didn't dive that deeply. I just figured out what zone I was in, so I knew if it was a good time for me to plant, because we're now in the middle of May. And some crops you have to start early, and some crops they're not good summer crops, so you don't really want them out in the heat, and so it's better to either start early spring or in the fall. Like, there's like a whole lot of stuff that goes into it. Another thing you have to consider if you're using raised flower beds is if the crop is container friendly. Some crops are not very container friendly. Also, when gardening, you have to think spatially, because certain crops need like a lot of space. Like, you're gonna see there's one that I bought that I wasn't paying attention when I grabbed the seed packet, and it needs like a lot of space between seeds. So I don't actually know if I'm gonna plant it, because I don't think I have the space for it. Another thing to consider is if you're supposed to start the crop indoors and then transplant it outside, which is something that I didn't pay attention to when I was buying my seeds until afterwards. I like thought about it because I was watching something and they were like talking about their seedlings that they start in the house, and I was just like, oh, I wonder if I got any of those. And then I checked my packet, and sure enough, I had ones that you're supposed to start indoors ahead of time and then transplant in like the May-June time frame. So I'm still gonna plant them and we're just gonna see what happens, because like I said, trial and error. But there are definitely some seeds that I probably should have started a couple weeks ago indoors, and I didn't come up with this whole project idea until like, I don't know, Wednesday. So first up, I knew we wanted tomatoes, but again, container, so I don't have a ton of room. So I had to pick smaller varieties of tomatoes. So I went with like these. These are like a cherry tomato. They're the super sweet hybrid. This was one of the ones that you're supposed to start indoors like 6 to 8 weeks in advance and then move them outside. So we'll see how that works. Another tomato, this is a honeycomb hybrid. I don't know, just sounded good. Again, another one I was supposed to start inside as a seedling and then transplant. Summer squash, this is a saffron prolific straight neck variety of squash. This is the one I don't know if I'm gonna plant because it requires 36 inches of space in between its seeds, and I don't think that I have space for it, unfortunately. So we're gonna see, I figured I would try out lettuce because I read on some blog that like lettuce is like very beginner friendly. Another summer squash, this is a Ford hook zucchini. And again, this one requires 36 inches of space, so I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do. We're gonna figure it out though. We might just try to be rebels and defy the odds, and if it fails, it fails, but like, hey, we tried kind of thing. And now we know. I've got carrots, this is a kaleidoscope blend. They just looked really pretty. And then sweet peppers, this is a carnival blend, and I've never seen such a beautiful color variety of peppers before, so I'm excited. Herbs, I'm starting with a sweet basil and a cilantro. Honestly, I love cooking with fresh herbs, but these two are probably the two that I would like love to have the most on hand fresh. And then for fruits, like nothing says summer season to me like watermelon. Like it's such a refreshing, just delicious fruit. And so I've never tried this kind before. This is a blush sugar baby watermelon. They're smaller, and that's why I got them, because again, I don't have tons and tons of space. I got two more fruits, but they're not seeds. They're more mature plants. They're probably about this big. And I got blueberry and blackberry. And so we're gonna pot those separately and just like see how they do. Getting started a little bit later in the day than I had hoped. We've been having terrible, terrible weather in New Jersey. Like it's just been so cloudy and just ugly. The sun actually poked its head out about an hour and a half ago, so I was waiting for the sun so that I could just like feel like it's summer while I do this. All right, let's do it. To buy myself some time to work on this project, I got Josiah his own little gardening tools, and then I put Ariella in our pop-up tent by the California Beach Co. We bought it for summer beach trips, but I think it's gonna be great to have on hand for like summer yard work. I thankfully had Mike on standby to help pour the soil into the beds. I did not anticipate how heavy the bags of soil were going to be. TBH, I don't actually know a whole lot about soil, so I relied heavily on the people at Home Depot to recommend soil to me. This one that I just added is specifically for raised garden beds, and then they recommended another soil and just like mixing the two together for like an optimal blend for my veggie garden. Now I'm just adding in that second soil that I had mentioned. This one I believe is a moisture control soil, and it was specifically formulated for like vegetables. So I'm adding this into both planters about half, so that it's like half and half. Now just like any project that I work on around the house, I made a huge mess trying to get the soil into the planters, and so I just did a quick little cleanup so that I'm not stepping in dirt as I'm working in my raised garden beds. And I thought it would be a good idea to take my little hand rake, is that the technical term for it? I'm not sure, and just go in each of the beds and mix them all up so that the soils are kind of evenly mixed together, as well as just breaking up any large clumps that are in the soil. This way, when I do plant and roots start to grow, they don't have any trouble kind of growing throughout the planter because of like big clumps of dirt. Now it's finally time to start planting. I think I started with my carrots. Yes, these are the kaleidoscope carrots were first up, and they had to go like a half an inch into the soil, and then you just dump a couple seeds. I wasn't like being super technical with it. I was just kind of eyeballing, as I do with most things in life. Like I said, I'm not a professional. I'm just learning as I go. But funny story about getting all of our gardening stuff. We went to the Home Depot, which is where we got all the raised beds and the
soil and the seeds and everything. And when we went to go get a shovel, because I was like, I don't think we have a shovel, and if we do, it's packed in a box somewhere that we haven't unpacked from our move yet. So we went to get a shovel, and Home Depot had no gardening hand shovels. I like couldn't believe it. I was like, I guess everybody had the same idea this week to plant gardens. So I actually found my spade shovel and my regular shovel at Target, and they were the last ones. It was like some miracle. Otherwise I was gonna go on a wild goose chase for shovels. Also, earlier in the video, I mentioned that I wasn't sure I was gonna plant the zucchini and the squash because of how much space they needed. I actually just decided to go for it and just see what happens. I didn't plant a lot of them. I think I planted like one row for each of them, and we'll just see. We'll see what happens. If I didn't give them enough breathing room and it doesn't work out, then I know for next time. And if it does and we get like 1 or 2 out of it, then like that's cool too. Now I'm moving on to getting my pots ready for my more mature plants, which were the blueberries and the blackberries. And as you can see, Josiah was very interested in what I was doing. He was entertained by his own gardening tools for like half a second, and then he just wanted mine. I let him add in the moisture control veggie soil so that he felt like he had a hand in what I was doing. He was so excited to help. 2 is such an exciting age because he just really enjoys being helpful, and I love letting him have that independence when time allows for it. But here I am just making my little hole and getting my blueberries ready to go into the pot. I watched somebody do this in a YouTube video, and their plant looked very different from mine, so I'm just hoping that mine grow, because it would be really cool to be able to get some blueberries out of this situation. Organization is key, and labeling is important, because I have total mom brain and I would never remember what was planted where if I didn't label them. So I just found these little garden labels, and I'm using a Sharpie to write everything down so that I know what's growing where in this garden.
That was quite a bit of work. My back is hurting because even though the beds are elevated, you're still bending at kind of a weird way to plant the seeds. And I mean, again, this was definitely not perfect. I'm nowhere near an expert gardener. I probably never will be. I mean, I guess never say never. Who knows? I could get really into it and I could become like a suburban farmer. Like, who knows? I don't know. Maybe we get chickens. Mike won't let me get chickens, I've asked. Sitting in our sunroom right now, which next year I will plan better for my gardening, and I will start my seedlings and I can keep them in here. This would be like a good place to kind of grow them and then transplant them. Where the planters are right now, I don't know if we're gonna keep them there. I have an idea of where I was going to put them, but really before I move them there, I kind of want to get an idea of the sun and which parts of the yard get the most sun, because a lot of those veggies need like ample sunlight, and so wherever the yard gets the most sunlight is probably the best place for them. So I have to see if where I had in mind is a good spot or if it's too shady. I got everything planted today except for the cilantro and the basil, because like I mentioned earlier, I think I mentioned it earlier, I really needed 4 like round planters and I only bought the 2. So I put the blueberries and blackberries, I planted those because the instructions on the package said to plant them within like a day or 2 of purchasing, and we bought those yesterday morning. So I wanted to make sure that those got planted first, and the other ones are seeds, not mature plants. So I'll just run out this week and grab 2 planters, and then I have extra soil left over, and I'll just fill those up and get those planted and add those to the garden. You see my little garden markers? How cute. The copper with like the silver. I saw them on Amazon and bought them because I thought they were really cute. And then it's funny, I was watching a gardening video and a girl had the same tags and she had like a metal stamping kit, and then she used the metal stamping kit to like label her garden on them, and it looked really, really pretty. I don't have a metal stamping kit, and I don't also have the patience to stamp out every letter. I would be there like all day, and I just don't have the time. I wish I did though. Back in the day I probably would have done something like that and it would have taken me forever, but it would have looked beautiful. But now with a toddler and an infant, I just don't have the time. If you saw, Josiah was in everything that I was doing, which was actually really cute. I even bought him like a little wheelbarrow from Target and like a little, it's for sand, but it's like, you know, a bucket with all the little shovels, the little rake and all the things, and so that he could garden alongside me. He ends up playing with that for like all of 5 minutes, if that, and then he just wanted to use my garden tools. So it was fine. It all worked itself out. He had a good time. He's all cleaned up inside now. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me today. I'm gonna go get myself cleaned up because I am a sweaty, gross mess. If you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. You can leave me any questions or comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos from me in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.